Hi guys, and welcome to Beginners MySQL Connection C# tutorial. And just before we start guys, can you please subscribe to the channel, and that helps a lot. So just to let you guys know what's happening here we have barcodes, of which I'm going to show you guys how to put something like that together. And we have a search button here. Then we have the various buttons that will add more data if you want. You can click on reset, and let's assume we want to add new members, and the name, let's say the name is Femi Jones, and address of Mr. Jones is Goodman Street. Mr. Jones, mail, mobile number, postcode, email fjones@gmail.com. Member type, let's assume it's a monthly member. There, all we then need to do is just to click on add new. There we go. So let's go scroll right down, see if we can find Femi Jones. That's Mr. Femi Jones right there. And one good thing about this is we can also have a look at the database, and let's just click on the Workbench database itself. That is it, MySQL Workbench database. And I'm just going to click on refresh, scroll right down, and right there, that's Mr. Femi Jones right there. Okay, so we can minimize that. The other thing that we can do with this system is we can actually search for any of, let's assume we want to search for Paul Parker. Let's enter Paul Parker membership number and just click on search. There we go, that's Paul Parker's information right there. And the other thing that we can do is we can also display individual data in there. Let's say you want to display John. We know we have a lot of John in there, so all we just need to do is just enter John in there and click on display, and there we go. Those are the details of John right there. All that we have is all about John, and we can delete as many Johns as we want because we seem to have quite a lot of Johns on the system. Check this out, and that is 889448. Hit on delete, gone. Click on the next one, and so forth. That's how the delete button works. And now let's exit out and start a new tutorial. So I'm going to click on exit, and let's click on new project. Now select C# and let's click on next. I'm going to give that a name. I'll call it CS_beginner MySQL and click on create. Now that my development environment is ready, I'm going to make sure I click on the form and let's select properties. Now pin that down, and what we want to do now is to increase the size of this form. So let's come in here. You see in the property where we have start, where we have size, let's change that to 1386 by 788. And just for you guys to know, the choice is yours. The size actually depends on the what your screen resolution is, whatever size you decide to want to use. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go right up here. Okay, scroll right up and make sure you have your alphabets or alphabetical selected. Now come into where we have back color. Let's change that very color to cadet blue. There we go. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come straight to the toolbox. If you don't have your toolbox, go straight to the Windows and select reset, and then click on yes. Your toolbox should then appear right here if you can't find your toolbox. And what we open as well is Solution Explorer will pop up, and the properties will be displayed as well. Okay, now that you have your toolbox, you can collapse all of the dialog to just to the corner of your screen. Now select the toolbox, scroll right down, let's look for panel. Right there, I have my panel in place. I'm going to change the color of this very panel to control. Control is the default color there. And now let's increase the size of the panel, and I'm going to, let's make that about 95. Okay, 1346 by 95. That is good enough. So I might as well copy this, hold on to the control, click and drag. We need about 5 of those. And I'm going to copy another one. Let's bring that down. Copy one here. Okay, while at it, I'm just going to make a brief announcement for you guys. Please, can you kindly subscribe to the channel, please? That helps a lot. I'm going to click on this third one, just drag it that much. And this very fourth one, the fourth panel here, I'm going to also drag that down a little bit, and then let's copy one more. I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to be using that for my buttons. Let's bring it down and bring it all the way down there, something like that. Now we have every single panel in place. The next thing we want to do is let's just select it all and move it right up. Just tab it right up. Yeah, that's good enough. Now right up here, I'm going to click on the toolbox and let's add label. There we go. We have one label here. I'm going to copy that same label, put another label here, and I will need one label here. I will actually need about 3 of those. So let's select all of these labels that we have in here and increase the font size to something readable. So I'm going to make the size of that very label 24 bold. Select bold. There we go. And this very one here, I'm going to make that about 60 bold. Nice. And this one we should make that 24 as well. There we go. Bold. Right. And this very one, we might as well just change the text content of this. So let's change that to MySQL Connection tutorial. MySQL Connection tutorial for beginners. Okay, that's fine, just MySQL Connection tutorial. Now that that is done, I'm going to copy this very label. Let's select, hold on to your control. We have one and another one here. In total I need 9 of those. Okay, so right underneath here, first of all, let's just reduce this a little bit more. Okay, I think that will do. Can always adjust as I go along. I'm going to add a text, some text box in there. Let's see, text box. Yeah, we have one here. And this very text box, let's change the font to 24 as well. 24. There. And we can just copy that. We have 2 and we have 3. And here we need 2 here and another 2 here. There. Then let's move this up. We're going to need this one right up here. Then we also need a combo box. Let's come here. We need a combo box. One here. And that very combo box, let's change the font size to 24 as well, something readable. There. And that's very combo box, let's copy it right here. There. Okay, in here we need data grid view. Okay, that is data preview right there. Just drag it out much, something like that. And I need one text box here that I'll be using for the search, and another one up here that is going to be for my barcode. Now we need buttons. Let's grab hold of button, drag one here, and that very button, let's change the size to 24 as well. And the fonts or the text content on it, let's change that to search. BTN, that will be search there, and change the text content on it to search there. Now let's copy that very button, click, drag and drop it here. That is going to be for my exit. We have two, just copy, and we have, let's go back in there, copy again, and one more, I think. There we go. Alright, those are our buttons, but there's one thing I should have done. I'm going to copy all of these buttons. Let's cut them all off because I need a pattern in there. Let's cut. I'll be back to that. Now let's select this, that much, copy, and this very one that I've just copied, I'm going to change the font, the color to cadet blue. There. Let's just reduce it that much so that it can fit in there. We can now drop the buttons in there. So come back here and just drop the buttons back in there. There we go, look at that. Alright, that's good. Okay then, we're getting somewhere. And let's just adjust it properly, and I will take care of that as we go along. Alright, so here, let's change the text content we have in here. This is going to be barcode. Pin that down and just come in here, change that to barcode. Right. And the text box, I want to change that to TXT barcode. There we go. Done. Now, let's drag this that much, and this one is going to be known as member ID. And we have first name, right, and this is going to be surname. Right. Okay, so let's change the names for the text box. That's going to be TXT member ID, and this is going to be TXT first name, and we have TXT surname. Now let's take care of this very one here. This is going to be address. So the text box, change that to TXT address. Okay, that is fine. And this is going to be gender. Why we call this CBO gender. Then we have mobile here, and the text box is going to be TXT there. mobile. Then we have this label here. Let's change that to postcode. Why? We change the text content, the text box here, to postcode. TXT postcode. And here we change this one to email. The text box right in front of it will be known as TXT email. And here that is going to be CBO member type. So the label will become member type. And right here I'm going to change the color of these to cadet blue. So let's come back in here. You can just change that to cadet blue. Alright, and this is going to be TXT search. That's good. Now come right down here. This is BTN exit. As for the exit button, come right down here, and this is going to be exit. This is reset, and the name will be BTN reset. I'm showing the whole steps because this tutorial is for beginners, though advanced learners can also gain a lot from this. So this next button is delete. The label on the button will be delete. There we go. And there we then have display. The variable name, that is going to be BTN display. When I say the variable name, I actually mean this name here. Okay, now finally we have BTN add new, and the output on the button will be add new. There we go. So each one of the components now have their own respective names. All I just need to do now is just to tidy it up a little bit and make it look much presentable. So if we run the program now, this is what you guys will see. So let's just save and click on run. Alright guys, this is how the interface is looking. The next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to exit out, and I want to attach the MySQL library into the system. So let's go straight into the project here. You see the project, select the project. Come right here, you see where you have manage NuGet package, select that and select or click on browse. Inside this dialog, click on browse. Now search for MySQL. There we go, that is it right there. You might as well select the top one, click on that, and where you now have install, click on install to get it installed on your system. Click on OK and click on accept, and there we go. The system is now installed on your system. Alright, so I'm going to exit out of this dialog. Let's double click on the form, and we now want to import as follows. Okay, right underneath here you see where we have the using system, Windows and so on. Just press enter. We now want to say using MySQL. You must import that very library dot data dot MySQL clients. end it with semicolon. There we go. And right underneath here, you see where you have public partial class from 1. You might as well just enter all of the MySQL connectors. So the very first one that I'm going to go for is going to be MySQL. That would be connection. There we go. And I'm going to just give it a name. I'll call it SQL Con. And that will be new MySQL connection. So that's the first object that I'm going to add onto my system. The next one is going to be MySQL command. That's the next object, and I'll just call that SQL CMD equals MySQL command. That's the second object. The next object that I'm going to get hold of would be for the table. So let's call that data table. So the data table, I'm just going to call that DT, and that's it. I'm using Visual Studio 2022. As you can see, it gives me most of the data that I need automatically appears. So the next one is, let's enter a variable, and I'll just call that SQL query. So that is my query variable. Now let's add one more object, and that's going to be my SQL data adapter. MySQL data adapter. There we go. That is it right there. And now I'm going to just call that. Let's go for, I'm not going to accept that, and if I do, I'll have to change it around. Let's say DTA, and that is going to be new data adapter. There. Now I also need the reader. MySQL data reader, and that is it right there. So the instance name is going to be MySQL RD. There we go. Those are the connectors that I need for my system. And the other one that I'm going to need will be the data set there. And the data set, I'll just call that DS. That will be new data set. That's good. So now let's create a strings, the string variable that we will use for the connection. Let's say string server, and my server is going to be localhost. That's the first one, and the second one, that is going to be for username. And the username is the root. Then my password. My password is quite simple to remember. It's going to be 1 2 3 4 5. There. All of these will be linked to the database. Now, for the database, so I'm just going to call that database. We can just call that maybe members. Let's just say membership. Okay, membership. Yeah, that's going to be the name of my database. Well, let's put it in a quote as well. Right, that's the name of my database. Okay, so now that I've defined all of the components that I need for my database, I'm just going to run it. You guys see how the whole system looks like one more time. Then we can start work with the data implementation or the creating of the table itself. So as you can see, guys, there's nothing happening right now. But with that, I'm just going to call it the end of the first part of this tutorial, and I'll see you guys shortly.